If Noah is one of the first stories in the Bible, Samson is one of the longest. The book of Judges tells of Jehovah leading the Israelites from slavery in Egypt to the promised land of Canaan, only to find it already inhabited by the Philistines, who worship idols and false gods. To drive them out, Jehovah raises up a giant of a man, Samson. We know him from art as well as Scripture. There's Jean Bologna's great study of Samson slaying the Philistine with the jawbone of an ass. Reuben's portrayal of him resting in the lap of his lover Delilah. And Van Dyck's moment of his capture after Delilah betrayed him to the Philistines, who tortured and blinded Samson.
My eyes have seen thy glory, O God. Now let me die with my enemies.
His final desperate act, pulling down the temple of the Philistines, became a classic, now rather campy, climax in Cecil B. DeMille's film starring Hedy Lamarr as Delilah and Victor Mature as Samson. It's a big subject worthy of one of Israel's premier writers, David Grossman. He's produced over 9 novels, several children's books, and some noted works of journalism, including the acclaimed Yellow Wind. His latest novel, Lion's Honey, casts Samson as a lonely and bewildered man, destined and doomed to do God's will. David Grossman, what attracted you, living in Jerusalem today, to that ancient story of Samson and Delilah?
Well, it's a wonderful story to start with. You don't have to be an Israeli or a Jew to like it. Here you have such a gigantic character like Samson. It's a story about his desires and passions, the women he loved. It's a story about betrayal, about loneliness. For me, as an Israeli and as a Jew, I find a lot of the symptoms of our behavior today as a society, as a state, coded in the character of the biblical Samson.
Why do you think the story is in the Bible? I mean, some editor had to take this and put it into this sacred text.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, maybe for the one who wrote the Bible, Samson was a kind of a model to imitate, to admire. You have to think about the Jews at the time of this story, when they were under the tyranny of the Philistines, crushed by the cruelty of the Philistines, very weak, vulnerable. Think of Jews throughout history, that they did not have army, weapon, ways to defend ourselves, having to obey all the time. And we have someone like Samson who can break all the rules, who can do whatever he wants, who cross borders without any hesitation. He creates his own reality. He is the master of his destiny, so he thinks. He's strong, he's so masculine. Jews looked at themselves as the worm of Jacob, Tolat Yaakov. And to have someone like him, and of course, I'll tell you that many of the combating, the most daring military units in our army since 1948 were called after Samson. The Foxes of Samson was one of the most famous military unit in the War of 48. In the beginning of the last Intifada, a special, very secretive and very daring unit that acted in the occupied territories against Palestinians were called the Samsonites. And there are many examples of the uses of Samson, the image of Samson, because, suddenly to be able to be Samson for a people like us is very refreshing. It's very tempting.
Give me a thumbnail sketch of Samson's story.
Well, Samson was born to parents that lived in the border area between then Israel and the Philistines. In a very tough period for Israel under the tyranny of the Philistines. His mother was a barren woman.
Sterile.
Yeah, sterile. We don't even know her name. We only know that she was sterile, that probably she expected a child. One day when she was on the field without her husband, a man of God, an angel, appeared to her. And he tells her, you are a barren woman, but you are going to bear a child. And this child will save the sons of Israel from the Philistines. And he will be Nazirite to God.
Nazirite to God means...
He is not supposed to touch anything that is dead, anything of filth. He cannot drink wine. He cannot cut his hair with a razor. Now, the woman runs to her husband, and she tells him the wonderful news. And she quotes what the angel told her, but she does not quote it correctly. She says, he will be Nazirite to God from womb till his dying day. Now, the angel did not say till his dying day. And I wonder, why would a woman who expected a son for so many years, when she comes and delivers the wonderful news to her husband, she adds this horrible phrase? What made her say this horrible thing? And I believe that in the time when she ran from the field in which she met with the angel, the magic man of God, until she met her husband, some knowledge, some understanding pierced her, and that is that the son she is having now in her womb is not only hers, that in a way it was touched by another entity, by God, yes, and of course she adores God, but it means that her son will never be only hers, that it's made of other materials.
But in so many ways, he was ordinary. That is, when he grows up as a young man, he falls in love with a Philistine woman, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't know that this love was planted inside him as a pretext by God, that God wanted to quarrel with the Philistines. That's why he imposed on Samson this love to the Philistine woman. It means that his love, his lust, his desires are nationalized in a way by God, are confiscated by God, are manipulated by God. What a tragedy. If you knew that your love life are not yours, but they are part of a big plan, a kind of a divine big plan, that they are a manipulation, how would you feel?
He's just a pawn in God's plan.
Yeah.